Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome today to my channel. Today we are looking at how to simplify surds into their basic form. To simplify a given surd, you have to find two factors of the number in the root, which are a perfect square and a non-perfect square, and use their product to replace the number in the root. Let's consider one example. Simplify square root of 8. Now let's look at our solution. Square root of 8, as we said, we are going to look for two factors of 8, where one is a perfect square and the other is not a perfect square, such that when we multiply the two factors, we'll get 8. So we have 4 and 2. So 4 times 2 gives us 8, which means we are replacing the 8 with 2, 4 times 2. Alright, so when we do that, we have the right to separate them and give this square root of 4 and give this square root of 2. Now, from the perfect squares that we were talking about, 4 is a perfect square, so square root of 4 gives us 2. And then 2 is not a perfect square, so square root of 2 will remain square root of 2, which is irrational. So then when we multiply 2 by square root of 2, then we arrive at 2 square root of 2. And that gives us the simple or the basic form of the surd square root of 8. Let's consider a second example. Simplify square root of 32. Here too, we are going to look for two factors of 32. One is a perfect square, one is not a perfect square. So let's consider this solution. Square root of 2 can be written as 16 times 2. So 32 is 16 times 2. 16 is a perfect square, 2 is not a perfect square. So when we multiply the 2, we arrive back at 32. Then our next step will be separate the square root of 16 times square root of 2. Now 16 is a perfect square, so square root of 16 will give us 4, and then square root of 2 remains 2. So when we multiply 4 by square root of 2, we arrive at 4 square root of 2. So that is the simplified or the basic form of the surd square root of 32. Now consider a third example. Here, simplify square root of 243. Now, considering the solution, we'll look at two factors of 243. That one is a perfect square, one is not a perfect square. And that when we multiply the two numbers, we arrive at 243. So we consider 81 times 3. 81 times 3 gives us 243. Then we will then have square root of 81 times square root of 3. We can't. The root affect the 81 and affect the 3 separately, so we can separate the root for them. Then root of 81 can as well be written as 9 raised to the power 2 root of 9 raised to the power 2, because 9 raised to the power 2 is 81. Now when we simplify it further, square root of 9 raised to the power 2 gives us 9. So square root of 81 will bring us square root of 81 will bring us here to 9, and then square root of 3 here will bring us here to this 3. So when we multiply the two numbers, we'll get 2, 9, and then square root of 3 here. Alright, to make things a bit easier, so we can become more familiar with things, we can consider another example. At this time, we attach a coefficient to the square root. So we want to simplify 2 over 3, then square root of 162. So let's consider our solution. Now, first of all, we'll keep the coefficient and then try to simplify the square root of 162. And 162 can be written as 81 times 2. So in all, we are going to have square root of 81 times 2. So in our next step, our coefficient still remains, and then we'll share the square root among the 81 and that of the 2. Good. Now, in our next step, we know that square root of 81 is also the same as square root of 9 squared, because 81 is 9 times 9, which is 9 squared. And then square root of 2 still remains square root of 2. And this gives us this, whilst we keep the coefficient. Now, our next step gives us square root of 9 squared brings us here to 9. And then square root of 2 here brings us here to the 2. And then our coefficient is still kept there. So, on to our next step, we realize that these 2 can go into this 9, and then we'll get a 2. And that a 3 rather, get a 3. And that 3 is going to multiply these 2, and that will send us back to 6. So we are going to get 2 times 3, and we'll have 6. So the simplified form, and then the square root of 2 still stays as square root of 2. So the simplified form of this is square root of 6 square root of 2. And that is what we have here. So I hope you have understood something on how to simplify surds into their basic form. Please watch the next video on addition and subtraction of surds. Subscribe to the channel so that you can have access to more videos. Thank you for watching. Bye.